All right, welcome everybody. It is, let's see, it's Wednesday, March 30th. We are not having a live conference meeting tonight. We obviously are still on Zoom. Maybe in April we'll be able to get back to live. I thank everybody for their flexibility in going on Zoom tonight, but we have a couple of guests here tonight. I just want to see, we've got a couple. So Richard White. So Bill, Richard White is a guest. I'm sorry, can you bring him in so that he can actually talk with us? I forgot to send a link to him. And you know what, bring Janet in too. Just bring everybody in. So we have some folks, I thought from Mary Isaacs here from Sustainable Trumbull, which is great. So, all right, so I will formally open the meeting at 7:04. And first out of the gate, I will review our past minutes from our meeting February 23rd, which is was a virtual meeting. Barbara put together some very detailed minutes. So do I have a motion from someone to approve the minutes from February 23rd?
I'll approve the minutes.
Okay, Richard's approved them. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, who seconded there, John? No.
I did, Tim.
Oh, Tim. The invisible man. Okay, so Tim did the second. Okay, and so then do I have a vote to approve the minutes? Everyone say aye or nay?
Yay.
Aye.
Yay. Okay, so let's move on to the meeting. We have a lot of really cool things to talk about tonight. I'm not quite sure what happened, but we had some really good juju going on. some very nice things have been teed up for us. So we have our new business and old business to discuss, but we also have special guests tonight. So I'd like to give them the opportunity to chat with us first. So first we have Richard White, who is from the Land Acquisitions Committee. And Richard actually was a huge integral part in getting the GIS program here in Trumbull up and running. He came on as an advisor when we had a Conservation Commission working group on GIS, and it was a good year or more of work, but thanks to Richard, he oversaw the GIS project that, program that we have here now, and that's what he does for a living too. So, so Richard, if you'd like to kind of introduce yourself, and then the floor is yours.
Sure, and thanks for having me.
Okay.
I'm a member of the Land Acquisition Committee, but I'm really speaking here for myself this evening, and I'm concerned about the recently purchased Hardy Lane property. I've been making presentations or statements at LNA, Town Council, sending an email to Planning and Zoning, and I thought it was appropriate to reach out to the Conservation Commission. Recently, the email I'm sending to Planning and Zoning is bringing up a suggestion that was made several years ago to repeal Section 2-4 of the Town Municipal Code. And it's this section in the Town Municipal Code is titled "Town-Owned Property is Exempt from Zoning Commission Regulation." There's still going to be state and federal processes that the town would have to go through to develop any property. But right now, the whatever they put forward for Planning and Zoning is almost advisory, and this would put the town on the same playing field as a business owner or any other property owner.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I thought I'd bring up with you guys is the more technical aspect of this property, the slope and like that. And if it's okay if I share my screen.
Yes, sure. So Richard, what's the code? There's the was it a particular zoning code that, or not?
No, it's in the town municipal code. It's section 2-4.
2-4, okay.
And it's basically, it states that any and all regulations prescribed by the zoning commission of the town is exempt from those. Not every town in Fairfield County or in Connecticut has this exemption. There was a survey done at the time. This was a proposal of the Planning and Zoning Commission about 5 or 7 years ago to the town council. It was discussed in LNA at the town council and was debated before the floor of the town council, and it failed to pass. But I think it's an appropriate time to bring it back up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
inland wetland, so they're exempt from planning and zoning and inland wetland as well, because that seems to be happening.
My understanding is that it would just be planning and zoning, that inland wetlands would have its own say in these matters, but I'm not 100% clear where P&Z ends and wetlands begins.
Okay, because that's a concern, because that seems to be happening as well. That they're exempt from inland wetland oversight, in the formal manner that any developer would have to. So anyway, go ahead.
So these are the 4 or 5 properties involved. There are 2 significant properties. I believe it's 9 acre and 6 acre, and then some smaller properties, 2 or 3 of which have single family homes on them, which I think all 3 are not vacant. I'm not 100% confident that this parcel right here was part of the purchase, but I've included it. It's upland. There is a small amount of state wetlands, but I do not know that a wetland survey has been done on the property. And there is water course that comes through here. And it's a delight showing this, the town's GIS, the Conservation Commission, because you've all seen it before. And one of the things that I would like to see if the Conservation Commission can't do is bring some of the layers that are in the town's plan of conservation and development into the town GIS and have those layers added. For example, unfortunately, this purple area was truncated by the legend, and it extends all the way down to Hardy Lane to maintain residential character and use. But because it's only in a PowerPoint presentation, it's not in a web mapping environment, you can get caught up on what actually is being recommended in our plan of conservation development and what isn't. So if these layers, which exist in a GIS format, were added to the town website, then the public could bring up the highlighted parts of planning, conservation, and development. And I think we're coming due for a new POCD.
Yeah,
maybe it's just a future state to say, hey, whoever the consultant is that's doing this work, please make sure you bundle up all of the additional layers, recommendations, annotations, et cetera, and publish them to the town GIS. There's significant slope on the property. We could go into different soil drainages and things like that, but there is significant slope on the backside of the property. My understanding is if this property is simply being considered. It's not a done deal. It's being considered as one of the possible sites for a future community center or aquatic center or senior center. But some of the size requirements, I think the town engineer would tend to stay away from the state wetlands for sure, and we would wait for a wetlands survey to be done. And then also there's water course through here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I wanted to point out is, some of the plans for other aquatic centers have included parking for up to 200 cars and or buses. To give you an idea of that, the reason I'm zoomed out so far is this is about 140 parking spaces on the front side of Stop and Shop. So, where do those 140 parking spaces plus 60 parking spaces go on this property? And is that appropriate? The other part is, and personally, I think the town should have a community center. I think the town should have an aquatics facility. I think the town should have a renovated senior center. I'm just concerned with this location because of its connection to the Quantic. and because of the steep slope on the backside of this property and the drainage into the property. If the town were to build something here, could the Conservation Commission say, guys, this is a LEED Platinum, this is a LEED Gold opportunity. It's going to have a 40 or 30 or 50-year lifespan, and that's appropriate to make that investment from an operational point of view. Is the Conservation Commission going to recommend to the town and say, guys, this is a perfect case for pervious asphalt and drainage. This is a perfect case for a green roof. We're going to be tying up a lot of surface area with impervious surface with 200 parking spaces and whatever the square footage of the building is. And even if it doesn't go in this location, if it goes in Toshua, is the Conservation Commission weighing in on the new roofing projects at some of our elementary schools and saying, hey, these are opportunities to take a 30 or 50-year time horizon and say, can we improve the operational efficiency of these buildings, save the town money in the long run, and do the right thing from a conservation point of view. The other thing, and I don't want to overstate this, I just want to show you sort of some of the technologies that are available from an environmental sort of plume study, and I don't want to overstate the risk here. So I'm going to show you this. This is something we've been working on in my profession, and this is on the backside of the property. Everything shaded gray to the left is locally up gradient. So anything in that area is going to drain down into this property. If there were a spill of DNAPL, which is dense non-aqueous material, those are your heavier petroleum products. This is what the expected, it's a synthetic plume. It's not actual going out and drilling environmental monitoring wells and building a Darcy flow model and a porous puff model. This is based on analyzing similar plumes and similar soil and similar elevation. Where would those heavier petroleum products go if there was a spill? The lighter, the LNAPL contaminant is going to go a little bit shorter than this, and then PFAS, as we all know, will go 3 counties over before it stops going through groundwater and ground soils. So, is the Conservation Commission going to be recommending something more than a phase 1 environmental site assessment of this property if there's going to be significant development on it, or significant development anywhere in town? So I know this is a much more technical than I would attempt before LNA, or before P&Z even, or before town council. So if there are any questions, I hope that the town is very careful with this property. It connects directly to the Pequannock. I don't think I need to go into the contamination problems along the Pequannock. I think simply building on this site, clearing this site, rearranging, the dirt, the drumlins, the whatever on the site would be disruptive on its own, and then the long-term use of the facility and all the problems that come with a large point source parking lot.
So Richard, do you know, when Land Acquisitions obviously worked on this purchase?
Yeah.
Right? So when it was purchased, and so it is now deeded, it's deeded to the town. Is there a deed to preserve it as open space? I was under the impression that this was being purchased to keep as open space because it was adjacent to the Pequannock River Valley, and
several terms were discussed. I really can't. There wasn't a specific reason other than general protection from high density development. You'll hear terms like land banking or deed restriction, things like that. There wasn't any one point. From my point of view, when I'm looking at something like this, when it came before land acquisition, I don't distinguish between high density development, whether it's a utility, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a commercial office space. High density development is high density development. And I would throw in that government, town or state facilities as well. I would consider high density development a utility going into a neighborhood. Things like that. It's not just apartment heads on pillows for me.
Yeah, Richard, I'm actually an environmental geologist. I
Yep.
retired. And so was there a reason why you mentioned Dean Apple other than just, a potential spill that might occur and how that might migrate in the groundwater?
I was using that as an example of how the groundwater flow at that location could propagate. So it's not a replacement for going out after a spill and drilling hills. It's a utility that's used by environmental scientists to say, hey, where should I drill those holes?
Yeah.
Or it's used upfront if there were to be a spill at this location. And the use we're talking about is not, it's not a gas station that's going in here. It's not a dry cleaner that's going in here.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the site use history? Was there any, here, worst it might have been as a farm with, now illegal pesticides, things like that.
I don't,
Worst
so
case?
this area, I think, there was apple orchard here once upon a time. It's almost as if every house along in this area has one apple tree that's remained from that activity. I don't know that other than if any of you remember Dr. Ed, he was a dentist in town for a very long time, is a neighbor on Churchill Road. And he always had some great stories. There was an activity, the same family, I believe, owns the property where the Stop and Shop is. I don't there's just a name in the tax card that's the same. They used to dump snow removal at the back of Hardy Lane. Somebody used to.
Of course.
Okay.
And I've always wondered, is that benign or is that of concern? I don't know. And Hardy is of the Hardy Foundry in Bridgeport.
If the snow melt was an area that, soil contamination, I'm assuming just from a road, then you'll have some hydrocarbons, can produce some level of pollution, probably not a lot.
Yep.
This is a great park property. What a great, connected with the trail. This is
Well, I have one. In 1987, I spent 6 months and I hiked on the Appalachian Trail, and the Appalachian Trail Conference has some of the best how to construct a trail. You would have to go pretty much a half a mile north, do a switchback, and come a half a mile down to meet the qualifications of a nice sloped hiking trail. I used to take my kids in the jogging stroller, and there's some trails through here. You can connect to Valley View, and then you can go down by the bridge down there. Once or twice, I tried to go straight down. I never tried to come straight back up. It is, if somebody says to me, and this was the same thing up the road on the old Churchill Road, is that this is connected to the thing. Well, the town committee that's making that decision, come join me for a hike. I'm not sure that I will make it back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's steep. But if you're going for a longer hike, that is awesome, right? You can go and but you're not going straight down and straight back up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wouldn't actually have to even be connected with the Valley Trail to be a nice park with trails, and you have that
In
that
this
steep
area.
slope in the north-south slope in the middle of it, which you could go down in the middle. It probably wouldn't be too steep, but I agree with 200 cars, during a runoff event, you're going to have some level of runoff that the surface runoff wouldn't be desirable. And then again, if they pave that, you're gonna have a lot of runoff going straight down that very steep slope, and might erosion happen. If they clear the steep slopes, the vegetation, trees, that's just gonna make it worse.
Mm-hmm. So
And I
that,
don't, that's an interesting question. I don't know what the tree removal is, and I would imagine that's one of the things that the town is exempt from under P and Z, or under that 2-24. You know, there are significant older trees. There's also a lot of new growth in there as well.
because the natural resource inventory that was just done shows multiple examples of clearing along the top of this ridge line or this slope, similar in size to this Hardy property, and there's significant erosion from the top of the slope down, just because the trees were cleared at the top. So, you know, I had asked Steve early if he could give me, you know, a couple of clear points on this property. I hadn't heard back from him yet, but just the slope, the percentage of the slope on all the spots, and you know, we're right now trying to change our zoning regulations to include riparian protections for development. So this is a perfect example of a significant riparian area. It's a sensitive watershed area because it is super steep, and it goes right down to the Pequannock River into one of our protected open spaces. So this and you know, the Trumbull Center plan, which has buildings like 25 feet from the edge of the river, just are not acceptable today because of the changes that we're seeing in precipitation and the volume of rain that we're getting and the velocity of the rain. So there would have to be some significant work done on this property to evaluate the environmental impact of anything that was done here. So Richard, what's the status of this now?
My understanding is that, you know, nothing's been determined. It's a proposal. They've merged the aquatics and community center building committees, or there's a proposal to merge them if that hasn't already happened. You know, it's being evaluated. There are challenges with any property in town, and I understand that, but I think before the town creates a new center, a new magnet, a new destination in town, we really need to exhaust all of our existing high traffic, you know, developed or semi-developed properties.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, you're famous or infamous for our turn off the aerial for our sidewalks in town. Sidewalks are a layer in the town GIS. They're on the other side of the street, and on the Tuesday concerts, people are walking up from Middlebrook, from all of these neighbors, you know, places. This is one of the higher density, you know, family with children household areas. And there is no way to cross 127. You can go down to Middlebrook, but there are no sidewalks on the opposite side. Or you can go up to past Quality and go, but again, there are no sidewalks on the other side. So, you know, one of the things we keep missing on this town is this idea of the state will work with us to fix the traffic problem later. We just had great success after 5 years at Edge Fitness and the pet store and the Prime 111, getting some improved traffic lighting in there.
Yeah.
You know, the state does not want to slow down the state numbered highways.
Right.
You know, so the idea even of putting a crosswalk in here, and that's going to be like a candy store. You know, some kid's going to live over in this neighborhood and say, hey, I can go to the community center, I can go to the pool, I can go on these hiking trails. It's going to be a magnet for our town. Everybody's going to know where it is. We could get into how steep this section of Church Hill is. We could get into this is a blind corner going in and out of here. How are 4 school buses leaving an aquatics meet going to turn left on that at a 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock rush hour? You know, that's not, you know, I'm saving all those bits and nuggets for other meetings and other venues. You know, a traffic study will have to be done and all like that. I don't think it's going to come out favorable.
So
Yeah,
Richard, what can we do who should we work on communicating with as a commission? Who, is it the building committee that we would send a letter to, or
Well,
advisory letter, or
I-
are we waiting for more details or decisions being made? Because a lot of work could go into an advisory letter. If you're on the
so
verge of forgetting about it, then
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm really just going to make a broad, generic best way for the town to move forward in a general sense. I really like the idea of putting town building projects under planning and zoning. I think that proposal a couple of years ago to remove that section from the town municipal code was the right thing to do.
mhm,
I think the Conservation Commission saying, hey, if the town's going to put a new roof on a school, if the town's going to pave a parking lot, these are opportunities to show developers how to do things correctly. And the town properties have a 30, 50-year long life expectancy. Those are the types of projects that benefit from LEED Gold and LEED Platinum.
right.
That's the
Right.
time horizon you're looking for. I'm not going to build a residential house that's LEED Platinum, because I'm not going to be there for 50 years.
Mhm.
But the town will be in this facility wherever it is. So a general recommendation, if you wanted to get specific on this, I mean, I think its proximity to steep slope to the Pequannock allows conservation to weigh in. And I would appreciate that. I think a higher level of due diligence on the environmental impact of the property. I think I would leave the traffic and is this the right thing to do? Is this the right time to bond it? I'd leave that to others. But I think where Conservation Commission can weigh in on how the town does projects would be great.
Okay,
I have a question, if I may.
yes.
Sure.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Pam Roman. It's nice to meet you, and thank you for presenting this. So the town owns this property at this point, right? What, is there a use for this property that is appropriate other than just open space? What would you, in a perfect world, what would this property be for, in your estimation?
So one of the things that I advocated for is this isn't an actual parcel. This is part of a larger parcel. This is what connects it to State Highway 127, which means the Planning and Zoning Commission is out of it for future development of this property. So I would recommend to the town that they sever off this parcel, they subdivide this parcel and sell it deed restricted, similar to the properties up on Old Churchill Road, so that it can't be recombined with this property to do high density development. I think, anything smaller than cluster homes are appropriate. If the town wanted to land bank them in 20 years, 10 years from now, sell off individual lots, again, deed restricted for development. I don't know that this is the right time to do that. Maybe it is with these 2 or 3 parcels that are part of the group. Possibly to split the property and to take everything that's steep slope and below and donate it. I don't know how the town does that. Give it to the state of Connecticut, put it under the state auspices as part of the Pequannock Valley, like these other parcels up here. The parcel that's here is owned by the state. So, is this a future home of the nature center, something much lower density than a community center? That's a possibility. I do think the connectivity to the trail is not for the faint of heart.
That's a good tactful.
I've walked back there. I know the slope of which you speak.
Yeah, of course, if we had a trail, even with switchbacks, where there's no cliffs, that's a potential avenue for future erosion if the trail's not put in right.
Yeah.
Richard, I wonder, was the phase 1 done when the town bought the property? That's usually the time, to do a phase 1 is when you buy the property.
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident one was done. Pam, did I answer your question?
Mhm. Does anybody else have any questions for Richard?
Well, the question I have is like, I guess the lots have all been combined, number one. And then number two, who has really the legal control over the property?
Well, I don't know that the lots have been combined. I combined them just so you didn't see the other lines there. I think there are 4 or 5 parcels involved, 2 of them large and then 2 or 3 that are small, single family. And the town would.
No, but like what governing board, if I went to town hall and I was a resident and I want to say, you know, can somebody direct me into the person I can ask about these lots, who would they direct me to?
Town council or economic development director. I'm just guessing. I'm not.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
You know, I live on Norwood Terrace, which is runs into Valley View.
Yeah.
And I know this lower area toward the Pequannock at one point was looked at for assisted living.
That was this same parcel.
Right. I didn't realize that this was the same parcel that extends from
Yep.
Hardy Lane. And I
It was.
know that the people on Valley View contested this because they were talking about putting an access road through Valley View. And now when I look at the slope, I didn't realize what the slope was. That was really bad idea because of the runoff. And they were going to build a huge building back there. So, I mean, a lot of this, I don't think it's a good parcel, but a lot of this would depend on where they were going to build this, or they'd have to stay away from that slope. Otherwise, this could really be disastrous. And I'll tell you, there's a stream that crosses Valley View from behind my house, from the maintenance division. And I will tell you, there's a lot of pollution coming from the maintenance division. This time of year, if you look at that stream, it is totally green.
Oh, wow.
And in 2 weeks, when the weather becomes warm enough for them to start washing their trucks, the stream will turn orange. I've had the state look at it, and they said it's an iron bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, unless I could physically catch them washing their trucks outside, there's nothing they could do about it. But I mean, it's obvious that they're washing their trucks outside there and they're polluting it. So could you imagine the pollution when you're this close to that river?
There used to be on the old town photo, I think it was this area, and when I would show elementary school kids the town GIS, I would ask them if they ever knew what it was, and they would always say it looked like a snow cone, and it was the town salt pile. And I believe that's been moved inside the cupboard, and there's a full slab underneath there. But it looked like a big, like little ski sledding hill. It was awesome, and I probably presented that to, I don't know, 12, 18 elementary classrooms over the years, and one kid nailed it, and I think he lived across the street. I think he knew it was a salt pile, but everybody else thought it was a ski hill or a snow pile or something like that.
Yeah, and that stream goes right through along that area. Yeah, it's so that's it's a concern. It's a big concern that town activities are not falling under the same set of eyes that other construction projects are, and that's not right. I don't think so. I would say the commission can discuss this as a general recommendation for that municipal code to be, if you have any narrative or anything that can help us to articulate what we want them to do. It's probably a very simple thing, but we do not want the town to be exempt from P&Z oversight, or inland wetland for that matter. I mean, that's just. you
Yeah,
know,
Mel, perhaps we could,
A no-brainer.
draft a letter, to the town departments and maybe like copy Vicky. But Richard, if you have any, Mel was saying any, language or bullet points, based on your knowledge in GIS that we can incorporate into that.
Sure.
Hopefully the town zoning regs will include things like, not clearing steep slopes, things like that. Some of the stuff you've been talking about, but that hasn't happened yet, and the regs aren't final yet.
Right.
So, well, this
Thank you
was
for
great.
thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for coming. You're welcome to hang out with us if you have. nothing else to
Gladly.
do.
I was
It's
hoping
very
this would be in
interesting.
person.
Yeah, thank you for your time, Richard. I really appreciate it. So the second special guest we have are the Sustainable Trumbull team members, and most of them are on this commission, but we do have Mary Isaac here as a super special guest, and she's also on Trumbull Town Council. So Mary, did you have anything that you kind of wanted to share with us tonight, or?
I just came on as a fun guest, but I did want to say one thing. I don't know if Richard is still there or not. He looks smiley. But nothing has been decided on Hardy Lane, if that's going to be used or not going to be used. It's still
Right.
The committee. Yeah. So, and I appreciate Richard has done so much for the town, and I love everything. I would love to see your presentation. By the way, I couldn't see it. I was trying to get my my phone to take a snapshot of the initial picture that you put up. But it is, just so you know, it is 25 acres, 25 or 26 acres, only 11 are buildable. I believe the amount of space that if this center did come to fruition, it would be about 6 acres. So this has not come to any department yet to decide if anything is going to happen or not. But all these concerns, of course, with especially steep slope and everything like that, are hugely important. And one of the things when this did come to the town council, one of my concerns, I know, Richard, you're saying, obviously, a building is a building is a building, and what are we protecting against? But when it was brought to us, Rena Bacalar had said that there was some aggressive builders that were coming and would potentially be putting up, or hoping to put up a lot of housing or apartment buildings. So in my mind, it was $7 million is a lot to spend on a parcel of land, but at that point, the reason it was purchased was to protect it from having yet another huge apartment complex put up, or multiple complexes. So for that, but
I agree completely, Mary. I mean, it was the right thing to do. People from both parties fully supported it, both before Board of Finance and Town Council, and we made a good faith presentation. So yeah, I appreciate your vote on both the bonding and the purchase.
And I do think, I mean, to me, and I said I have to put my town council hat on, my sustainable hat on, and also my resident hat on. So to me, I think this commission, it's really important that whatever happens there, that conservation in the wetlands, again, there's going to be a traffic study in the wetlands, hasn't been involved, your commission hasn't, but I really think it's important that, as Richard's saying, there really needs to be, all of the committees working together to make sure whatever happens there is for the best for the town, and it doesn't impede our environmental concerns. So I think that should be at the forefront. So I'm glad that everybody is weighing in on this. If you do have at this point concerns or thoughts, you can certainly get in touch with either the Aquatics Commission. They haven't formally joined forces yet, but the aquatics or the senior community facilities, and let them know your thoughts on everything. But as I said, it's still at the start. But one thing I did want to ask about the orange water was that I'm confused because the Public Works is on the right side as opposed to the Pequannock. So is there a river behind there? Behind Public Works?
That's the stream that runs right next to the Public Works, goes under the road and comes down and crosses Valley View.
Okay, so there
You
is a
know that
stream
when you're
over
walking
there.
on the trail, there's that stream very early on, right past the end of Tate Road.
Yes, so that runs that
That-
way?
It runs into that. It feeds into that,
Okay,
and then to the Pequannock.
You mean that spillway?
Yes, if we're talking about the same one, yes.
okay, thank you. No, I just wasn't sure where that waterway was, so I just wanted to take note. I will check on that, so thank you for bringing that
Right,
up.
right now, that stream is totally green. As soon as we hit 60 degrees, it'll be orange.
John, when the state, deep or whoever it was, came out to identify the iron bacteria, did they also take water samples for hydrocarbons?
They
and things
took
like
water,
that?
they told me, and this was quite a few years ago, because they basically told me to stop calling.
Stop what?
The state told me to stop calling them after they came down twice. So what had happened was they took samples before the town facility and after the town facility. And before the town facility, the water was clean, and after the town facility, they had this iron bacteria. They said it was not harmful, but obviously, if it's killing all the greenery in the stream, it's harmful as far as I'm concerned. So it's definitely coming from the town yard. Now, they made them put some protective barriers around their salt area. But I can guarantee you, and I don't have the time to drive through the town yard multiple times a day. I'm not in Trumbull during the day, but it's crazy that as soon as we hit 50, 60 degrees and they start washing, it's the weather to wash trucks outside. And they have a facility to wash trucks. They're not supposed to be washing trucks or using water outside of that facility because they have a separator that separates out all the pollution from the water.
Yeah.
And so they're only supposed to be washing trucks inside.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about, because I know they have that the wash basin. So we do have our relatively new Public Works Director, George Estrada, is fabulous. He came on right before COVID, so he was kind of, I don't want to say pulled back a bit, but not, we haven't been as proactive, let's say, as we could be in getting him out and about for, other departments to interact. But, I will check with him on that, because that, as I said, he's extremely receptive, and that just, it seems, I said, because I know they have a separate wash basin. So that's what I will check with him on that.
Yeah, so this is a good not project for us, but a point to request that the Pequannock River restart or the town restart testing in the Pequannock River. We used to do it every couple of years, and there were regular hot spots that they would check year over year, where there were storm drains coming in or inlets from streams like this into the river. So it would be interesting to kind of look back at the historic points. I bet the Pequannock River Watershed Plan, which indicates hotspots, probably has this intersection of this stream and the river. But it would be useful to ask that testing start again, because we
I'm
haven't
surprised,
the
I'm
river.
surprised that it doesn't happen more often, given that people fish all
Yeah.
along the river, and then in Twin Brooks, downstream from that spillway, there are people fishing at Twin
Yeah.
Brooks and beyond.
Fishing and swimming, and it is not swimmable. It is not designated as swimmable or fishable or anything. It is not a healthy river, but it can't keep people out of it. So, but if there is some kind of runoff from one of the town facilities, that's a problem, and I'm sure George would, welcome the opportunity to get some testing done in there. So, okay, so let's move on. And so Mary, a lot of what we're going to talk about, you're involved in anyway from here on. So we'd love to have your input. So under new business, some of you actually, I guess I copied you guys on it. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen first.
You also muted yourself, Mel.
Can you, yeah.
There you go. Nope. No, you're muted again.
Mute. Okay, that's weird. So March 16th sent this letter to Rob LaBrandy asking that the commission be put onto the agenda for the next planning and zoning meeting to talk specifically about the state law 21-29 and discuss the beginning of recommendations to changes in the zoning regs. So I have not heard anything back from anyone, which doesn't surprise me. I don't know when the next P&Z meeting is. It's usually like the first or second week of the month, I think. So it's probably the second week in April, but I'll check it out. Hopefully we'll be on the agenda. And so what I'd like to do once we get the okay that we can come and on the agenda, I would really like to present these points to them about this new law. And the points, there's like 6 points down below, are recommended over and over and over again in all the documents that I've listed here. And I'd say at least half of them, the narrative is written and it's sitting in the proposed zoning changes, which have not come to fruition yet. So I'm going to propose that we, take what was written and what was approved and actually get it added to the zoning regs now by their commission. So in speaking with Tony Silber about it, it's his understanding that the commission would just vote on adding these changes to these specific zoning regulations. So I'm hoping it's something that, can be, they'll accept it and then add it. And the fact that now we have this law that is mandating it, even though there's really no enforcement of the law, it's, it's protection of the public health and welfare to add all of these recommendations to our planning and zoning regs. So that's the first part of that. Now, I also shared that letter with, we have a new MetroCog. She's not their executive director, but I think she's I don't know what her title is. She's a director there at MetroCog. So if you're not familiar with MetroCog, it is the council of government that oversees the 6-town area that we live in. There is another council of government I think they're the Southwest Council of Government. It used to be called SWRPA, now I think they're SWAG. So anyway, the 6 towns that MetroCog oversees is Fairfield, Easton, Trumbull, Bridgeport, Stratford, and Monroe. So I sent her that letter that you saw that I sent to our zoning he's not a zoning chair, he's our town zoner, a planner. And I'm going to have a meeting with her on Friday, a Zoom meeting with Karen Bernaska, who used to be the first selectman in Monroe, and she and I now co-chair the Conservation Technical Advisory Committee for MetroCog. And we're going to talk very specifically about this new law, and we need the help of this council of government to help push this law through all the towns so that we can add riparian buffer protections, that the land that is remaining for development it tends to be very, it tends to be the sponges in the landscape. It tends to be the ones that are steeper or very wooded or somewhat wet. And they're remaining parcels because historically they've been hard to build on. So these are the ones that are super important to add another layer of protection on, should they come up for development. And so Hannah Reichel is her name. So I'm going to have a Zoom meeting with her on Friday, and we're going to talk about this law and how we as a region can work together and get each one of the towns to upgrade their zoning regs. So, but I think for us, for our town itself, at the local level, I don't think it should be too difficult to make some of these changes. And this may be the opportunity too for us to, you know, bring up this municipal code for, you know, no longer exempting the town from P&Z oversight. So that would, seems like it would be a good fit in there. So does anybody have any questions about this, the zoning upgrades for the riparian law? No?
I
Okay.
don't have a question about the recommendations and the law. I guess
Yeah.
my question goes to what you mentioned already, which is the enforcement part. You know, what do you do about getting towns to enforce these laws? Is it a financial thing that they don't have enough people to go around? They're spread too thin. I'm not really sure why nothing gets enforced around this.
You know, that is the frustrating thing. There are a lot of laws that are certainly not enforced, and it could be, you know, that there's not enough staff, or what, but, you know, there's necessarily no penalty. So, you know, even when inland wetland laws are violated, we never even force a penalty on, you know, that we warn them, but don't penalize them. So really what it comes down to, and the attitude I'm developing now is what, in related to this law and others, is, you know, it's actually a violation of the public trust. Like, we are trusting our land use boards to do their job and oversee development and applications that come in, following wetland laws, following zoning laws, and that's their job. And so it's important for us to have these laws like inserted into our regs so that, you know, they can come up and legally, you know, our town attorneys could say, you know, I'm sorry, but this slope is beyond 15 degrees or 15%, as they say, and cannot have development on this, or removal of vegetation on a slope 15 degrees or greater. Just can't.
Well, I'm particularly concerned now as this project on Dale News Farm Road seems to be winding down a little bit. The houses are nearly finished, if they're not all finished. I'm worried about the runoff on that side of the river and what's going to happen. And I don't know, does anyone from inland wetland go after the fact to check on what's been done? Does anyone check that the plantings are correct, the slope is correct? Or is it really just at this point, that's it?
I do not think that, I don't know, I'm assuming that when construction's going on, that the town engineers do go out and check that. But that's another case where that application was pulled away from the 100-foot setback. So they, you know, starting at 101 feet. It can, you know, it's ridiculous to think that that's not going to impact the Pequannock River. So that's been my worry, Pam, too. I've often wanted to go in there and just make sure that they haven't disturbed that 100-foot buffer. But then again, I'd be trespassing, so I would have to get probably permission to go in there. So I don't know. That's just an open question. We tend to trust that things are being watched. And
If we have this moment, though, where we are able to work with planning and zoning to update those regulations to bring those pieces in, can we not take advantage of that same moment to put in penalties as well, financial penalties, in addition to recommendations and if we have recommendations and requirements, at least on the requirements, why can't we put in an enforcement, I mean, or at least a penalty? And, you know, I don't know if there's the manpower, the resources to do the enforcement to then charge the penalty, but at least have some sort of stick.
I mean, I personally think it'd be get one step at a time, because as soon as they hear the word penalty, everybody will probably get all, you know, kind of discombobulated. So why not start with the regs first, and then if that's so be it, then you go after it later on.
I guess my thought was, and I don't really know how these work, so I would certainly respect that you know more than I do, but I guess I was thinking the opposite, which is if there's only one chance to get something in, do we try to get more in, or do they say, well, if you got the regs in, you can't come back for 10 years or, you know, whatever. We close that door. That's enough. I don't know. It's just a question.
I don't know, Mel, you tell me. I mean, I think we just go for the regs because it's been how long since you've been trying to do this with a lot of different things. So.
Yeah. But I think, you know, what this would fall under for, on these projects, there's a bond usually that is placed for, I don't know what the size of these bonds are, quite a few $1,000s, pretty big size bonds. And that money is held to make sure that the developer meets the parameters of the town engineers. So if there's, sometimes there's actually a landscaping bond that, you know, the money will be held until the landscaping plan is met. And the problem is the landscaping plans now just really stink, and I'll be honest with you.
Right, so if you got the regs in, that would be, you know, part of the package, and
Right.
if they were bonded, you know, they.
Okay, so then there is a penalty there.
Right,
Yeah.
they'd have to complete all of the, you know, the punch list to get their bond back.
Yes. Yes. So these would be added to the punch list. Yeah. So that's probably a mechanism, but I think it's a very good point that, you know, obviously all of us are not clear on. And it would be great if it was answered in some way so that we're not just spinning our wheels with this. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll get on the agenda. I would tend to think that we're in a good place now with it in at least talking with Tony and some of the zoning.
It's on the 20th. No, the meeting, April 20th.
April 20th. Oh, thank you. Well, good. That gives time to make a PowerPoint. Great. Okay. All right. So now the next.
I think Mary has her hand up.
Mary?
I'm sorry, because I know I'm just, I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
an
look at your
observer.
hand. How cute that
My
is.
hand. I'm just an observer, but one thing, just as we were talking for our meeting, I do think this is an opportunity for you guys to, since the full regs are not being done at this time. I know 2017, I thought 2019, we're still waiting, but this may be the opportunity. You know, I know Tim's saying we don't want to jump in and you know, cause more fires there that might impact things in other ways, but it might be the time to have that oversight and try to put that in. So I know, Mel, like, obviously you're saying with conservation being part of the issue with the tree warden and having that oversight, and inland wetlands, you're 101 feet. So if you do have a steep slope, if it impacts it, it doesn't matter if it's 101 feet, it may impact it. So
Yes.
I just feel like this might be the time to put conservation, inland wetlands back into that mix so that they can't avoid going. I mean, if they have to go and it's a 5-minute meeting because it really has nothing to do with the group, because look, it's not steep slope. It's, you know, it's 500 feet out, they're not going to go. But if it's at Moorfield Farms, as we saw, there's a lot of issues that are impacting there, and you're allowed to kind of go around the way that our government works at this point. It just does seem that this might be the time to allow you guys to be able to put yourselves back into that mix in a more proactive way and have the influence and the oversight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm wondering, does the town have any statute or anything that says if you don't follow any of the town regulations that you're viable for potential fine? It wouldn't matter what they're violating, I wonder.
No, I think it's pretty specific. I mean, an example is impacting a wetland. So people are taking trees down in the wetland area, and they say they didn't know. The town engineer can go in and say, you know, the fine specifically for that is $1,000 a day until you submit a plan that you're going to restore or you begin restoration. Now, that was just put into effect a couple of years ago, and it's in the letter. So it's $1,000 a day. If you disturb in that 100-foot area significantly, it's never, ever been enforced, never
But
been enforced.
Who's in charge of enforcement? I mean, does the head of the department just decide not to enforce it? Is it a town policy that they're not going to enforce it? It just seems like if you have a law or a code that you just can't ignore it.
I do not know. I mean, there's a code enforcement officer, and I'm assuming that that's his job.
I mean, I would just think that I would just think that the first selectman's office, or, you know, not to blame any one department, or somebody in the hierarchy would say, you have to enforce this. If the head of the department's not enforcing it, why doesn't one of our elected official or boards or tell them that they have to enforce it?
I do not know.
Janet has her hand raised.
It's a good question. There's Janet. Hi, Janet.
There's me. I can only contribute anecdotally on this related to our experience here around the lake and the enforcement of regulations and the $1,000 and all the rest of it. And what I see happening is the inland wetlands, understandably, is trying to work with members of the community who may have violations, and they work very hard to try and get people to cooperate. There was one instance where it did end up in court, and somebody, you know, the homeowner was theoretically liable for the $1,000 a day, and a judgment was rendered. And unfortunately, there was no time limit on no time frame noted on this particular property, and there has been no restitution. And it's at least 2.5 years since that happened. And most of the other things just go by the wayside because people are, we're not saying don't do it. Again, this is just my perception. And they're saying, let's try and work it out. Let's try and work it out. Let's try and work it out. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. But it's not a question of breaking the rules, getting fined, done deal. It doesn't happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
much
Janet,
more fluid.
Jen, was that where the homeowner cut the trees, crossing the street out by the lake? That's something else.
The homeowner had removed trees down by the water. He lived on the other side of Old Dyke Road.
Yeah.
And we're still waiting for those trees to be returned to their location.
Replanted.
Yeah. And also, Mel, remember that, like, I think summer of 2020, when the Marissa's developer didn't really bother too much to protect the drainage channel going through there.
Yeah, they put riprap there without.
Like silt fence or.
Yeah, there's no silt fence until we called. Huntington Turnpike had no silt fence until we called.
Yeah.
I mean, these are basic things. These are just no-brainers. And so they ask and they put them up, but we shouldn't have to ask. This is, you're a developer. It's very frustrating.
And Pam, that was a good point, a good question. In that case, we just wrote a letter to the town engineer and then just said, they got to do this. And then they did, remediate it. But, theoretically, it's a pretty big construction site. They had somebody overseeing it. A silt fence is, about as simple as you can get, but they did do it after the fact.
Yeah.
So this must happen quite often.
Yeah, it does. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so let's move on to a very positive thing. The town survey. Never thought that this would happen, but we've got Action Sarah, who put together a fabulous survey, and it's teed up to go out on Friday. So Sarah, if you want to share with us what's going on with this.
Yes, so we have a survey. It is linked on the town of Trumbull. I mean, it's our Conservation Commission site. It's linked on the Sustainable Trumbull site. We have, courtesy of John, we have 18 there's one behind Richard. Mine are in the car at the moment. I would hold one up. They're not quite that big. That's
Oh, I got
it. But Richard sent out a few examples that he put up already. We've got, we're going to put up 18 around town in heavily trafficked outdoor kind of places, parks and rail trail. There's lots, kiosks around. Hopefully when over the next 2 weeks, when everybody on this call is out and about, you'll see one or more than one. Richard's started to put them up. We're going to have them all up by Friday. I'm going to be putting some up on cork boards indoors as well, and I'll be keeping an eye on them over the next couple of weeks. And then, of course, taking them down when it's all over per what we promised. Parks and Rec. Additionally, we have, Mal, you spoke with someone from Trumbull Times, and that is going out or will go out.
Yes.
Where Patch has it.
Yeah.
It'll be thanks to Bill's approval. Patty will be putting it on the town website and sending out a town email blast on Friday. And I've got one more sort of media thing I'm going to reach out to. Mel, you started a question about, and I don't remember who, somebody raised their hand virtually and said that they would, that there are like local Trumbull moms, sustainable Trumbull group, places to post it on Facebook. I don't have access to that.
So Pam and Mary, I think,
Okay.
right? You guys had some.
Yeah, I'll put it on the town, on the Sustainable Trumbull's page. I'll put it on our Twitter account. I'll put it on Instagram. I'll put it on Nextdoor. And I'm not a Trumbull mom. I only have a cat. So I think Mary, she'll put it on Trumbull Moms. I'll have my husband share it on Trumbull Dads, and then any other sites that the Sustainable Trumbull people are on. Like, I think there's a bunch of them that, I mean, I have enough with the ones I'm on as it is. So any social that I'm on, I'll put it on. I know that, Parks and Rec has a pretty robust Instagram feed, but I don't know if they'll share it for us. But so we'll get it out any way we can for it.
And Mel had written up a great write-up for the media posts that we've had. I was thinking maybe in about a week, if we, especially if we see numbers kind of lagging, maybe do another blast of that sort to say, there's still another week to be heard, and we still want to hear your voice if you haven't had a chance to do it yet, given just that we have this short time frame. We want to have it done before people go on spring break, and then as we've said, we will have results by April 22nd, Earth Day, although we don't necessarily yet have a plan for releasing the results. That's 3 weeks away. We can figure something out in 3 weeks, but that's where we stand. And
Is there a one sentence sort of pitch that you want us to use, a certain language that you want us to use when we're sharing this? We want to hear from you, let your voice be heard, anything like that? It's official?
Yeah, I mean, Richard, if you can just move to the side a little bit. It says help set the priorities for Trumbull, have your voice heard. So at the top says take a quick sustainability survey sponsored by Sustainable Trumbull and Conservation Commission. Help set the priorities for Trumbull, have your voice heard. Some combination of those words. I can write something up if you'd like.
Nope, that's good. As long as I'll see that, I'll take from it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's cool. So the QR code, like if I'm on a trail and I see that, you just hold the phone up to that and the survey will pop up?
Yeah, some phones work where all you have to do is open your camera and hold, like you're just taking a picture and hold the camera up to the QR code and the camera has a QR reader inside of it.
Yeah.
Some older phones may have to have a QR app to read it, but most phones these days, all you do, no, can't.
I can't,
Sorry,
yeah.
Richard.
So basically what I did, wait a minute, let me just stop that background. Let's see.
While Richard's doing that, just say also April Lang from Sustainability is going to be sharing to all the PTA pages. So that's great because it'll get all those, you know, from all the going through PTA Council, you get all the schools. So she should get all the parent emails.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
So what happens is you scan it with your phone. Now my phone will scan from the photo app. If it doesn't, there's tons of free apps on Apple and Android. So once I click on there, and then in case of Android phone, I just select the browser I want to pick. So I have several on here, and then there's Sarah's survey. And so then you just basically fill it in. And that's it. And then if you want to save your record, you would log in if you have a Google account, and it would save it on your Google account if you want to know what you took, or not. You just click submit, and that's it. Now, one suggestion: if you guys post it on something that's clickable, is what I found is the links on the town on Conservation Sustainable take you to the representative main pages, but then you got to scroll down to find the survey, and there is a direct link to it, and that's probably better to use, because what I found is it seems like there's two different web pages, and there's one page, and then you got to click in to get to another one. So people, if they're impatient, they don't get to it right away, they may give up. Either Sarah or I would have that link, directly to the Google survey. Oh, well, one thing, I want to thank John again for producing those great signs.
Yay, hey, John.
Yeah, that was and he made 3 different ones, and you all, at least all of you on Sustainable and Conservation, got an email with a photo of the first 3, which is one of each examples that we have.
I went past it today at Old Mine. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
It's really visible. It's on the gate there's one on the gate to the rail trail. It's super visible.
Oh,
Looks
cool.
great.
And that the kiosk
And the kiosk,
disappeared
yeah.
from there.
Oh, nice.
And then so John had made a couple of big ones, and Sarah has one. I think that's going to be a Twin Brooks one. And so I said, well, I have nothing to put it to. There's no fence right there. So let me, tie it to the right gate. So if you miss it, you're going to smash into the gate with your bike anyway. So, but John, I mean, he got them done like in one day. So this was great.
That's awesome. Thank you, John.
You're
That's
welcome.
great.
And then Mary, I did copy Cindy, but Mary suggested that I, which I did, email Cindy again just to confirm that, double check that Vicky's okay with a survey going on. So that was probably a good suggestion, Mary. It's good.
It's a
to have
little late for
always
that now, but I
be-
guess it's not
Yeah.
too late.
Hey, Sarah, I'm sorry to ask this question, but do we know, can I take the survey more than once as a citizen?
You
Or is it-
can, you can. And none of the rules, unfortunately, I mean, in order to find a free tool that allowed us more than 100 responses, because I'm hoping we get more than 100. I ended up just using Google Docs, which doesn't have a lot of, not safeguards, but it doesn't have a lot of rules in place that are enforceable. So even on questions where it says choose up to 3, I'm just using the power of suggestion. I can't actually stop people from, it doesn't actually stop you from selecting more than 3. It's just, we're just using it. I programmed this in 3 different tools, and there are some that have much better survey capabilities, but this one is free and gives us more than 100 responses, and it just seemed the easiest, quickest, cheapest solution.
And it's easier than some of the questionnaires you fill out by some company, so it was actually pretty easy to use. Now, I'm assuming, this is a stupid question, that none of us on sustainable or conservation are exempt from taking it. I mean, we can take it, right?
Yeah, if everybody on this screen right now takes it, we're up to 12, so.
Yeah. And we pass it on to our friends, as Sarah said, who live, work, or play in Trumbull. So if we have friends that do either one or all three, we should email them just to try to get, the more the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sarah, when it comes
I
in,
think
all the
Janet
data,
has a question.
oh, Janet, sorry, I didn't see your little hand there.
Just quickly, I mean, can I post this on our Lake Association Facebook page? Am I allowed to do that, or does it have to come from a committee person?
No, anybody can post it. Yeah, that's great. I mean, the more the merrier. Forward it, post it, do whatever you can to get eyeballs on it and clicks in it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So I'm gonna send it to the NIA president, the Nichols Improvement Association, so they can send it out through their emails too. So that's
Somebody
great.
The QR codes in their park too.
Somebody can send it to me. I have a couple of Facebook pages to put it on.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Janet,
there-
what is your email? I don't know if I have it.
Me,
Yes,
Richard? Yeah, it's JANCY17
so JANCY17 at
17.
Gmail.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
And one thing, what I'll do is I'll copy everybody here also in case you don't already have it, is a direct URL to the survey. And then I'll put the barcode on there. You can put on the email, you don't have to put the barcode. If anybody is geeky, wants to try the barcode, all the barcode does is take you to the URL for the survey. So there's, just a different way to do it.
It
'Cause
does
the
work right.
URL
The
for the
QR does
survey is
work
about
right
4
off the
feet long.
screen.
What's that?
The QR does work right off the screen. I held my phone up to the digital version on the screen and it popped right up on my phone.
Yeah, I was trying different sizes. I know John, when he made the signs, he tried them. I tried the 3 that were put out today to make sure that they work. The only requirement is there has to be a cell phone signal. Maybe 2 bars, 1 bar might work. So when we put them up, we'll just check our cell phone, and there are a few places where there is no signal, and then we wouldn't put it right there. But probably at most every site there would be a good enough cell signal.
So Sarah, when the data starts coming in, or does it all come in, and what's the process then for you to go through it and do your magic?
Yeah, I just do it. And what I will do is it looks like what we can get is here, I will share my screen if I might.
Because as we see how the data will come in, and you've typically done charts in the past, who do we share that with, and then how do we share that with the consolidated?
Well, that's a question. I don't know the answer. Once we get beyond, I can put together the interesting facts and stories. I don't know about the distribution. It feels like we've rushed to get to this point, given that we wanted to do it sooner than we had originally discussed, and we kind of haven't talked about the distribution of it. But because I own the survey, when I log into it, I see the questions and I see that we have 13 responses. So it builds charts of how people have answered the questions. So this is, it tells us that, this question, 13 people answered it. Here's how they answered it. And then I also get these individual results where I can see how each person answers. And now the first question, there was a little hiccup with it. So that's why this one doesn't have a response to it. But you can see how this question was answered. So I can certainly look at them one by one, or I can look at them overall. I need to do a little bit of research on how I think that I can, cut it by other questions. So I can say, okay, the people who say, I don't know, the people who say that they compost, how do they answer other questions? Or people who live in Trumbull versus people who work in Trumbull, how do they answer questions? So like, I think that what I'll do is I'll just do my thing. I mean, this is literally what I do all day long. My job, my real job. And so I can put together interesting facts and tell stories. And then we, as we talk about how we want to deploy it and roll it out and talk about it, we pick different pieces for different audiences.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
Yeah, it's good we have a marketing expert here on our team.
Oh, yeah. And, because Sarah, I think I told you, Sarah did this for me when I started at the land trust, because I didn't even know how to begin doing my job. And it totally informed what I was doing for the next 3 or 4 years. And the hope is that this, it will help us, to also plan the future and what the town's interested in. So it's really a great tool, and it's very interesting to see how people respond. And and they'll share what their interests are and what they need from us, and sustainable, and the sustainable team. And that's why I'm delighted that we're working together with the sustainable team. There's so much energy to just do these cool things. So thank you, Sarah. That's great. I'm really looking forward to seeing it get out there, and let us know the responses that come in, how it's going. And if it needs an extra boost, we'll send out an extra boost the following week.
Great.
So then I have here native plant recommendations for Trumbull. So Pam had added a page. I thought we had discussed this last time.
Well,
but
we discussed it, but I finished it the next day. So
okay.
If you want to see it, I have it available, but
yeah, why don't you show it? Because I'm going to share this when I get to the next topic.
Can you guys see it? Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
Yep.
Yeah.
And see, you added, that's right. You added that.
Let me make it a little smaller. So we had the first 2 pages already on the Sustainable Trumbull website for the Trumbull Pollinator Pathway. This was something that I had borrowed from you, Mel, with your permission. And then I changed the URL at the bottom. Used to be Aspetuck Land Trusts. And then, so there's a trees and shrubs. This is really about shrubs. And then I added just a tree page. And there's a little birdie with a little caterpillar in his mouth. And then pictures of what the trees or leaves look like on the suggested top trees to plant. So that's done. I haven't done anything with it. I haven't mailed it. I haven't posted it. I wanted to see if everybody was cool with it. And I think, Mel, you wanted to share it with someone, was it Inland Wetland? I forget, but.
Yes, so Inland Wetland, and also I think, this should be integrated into those zoning regs too.
Yeah.
When we talk about under the category of landscape plans, this should be the laundry list from which the landscapers use, because these are the top trees, shrubs, and perennials. And also I'm going to give it to so anyway, I'll go to the next thing. So is everybody good with? Thank you, Pam, for putting that together.
Sure.
Oh, quick question.
Yeah.
Is that going to be on our website? If not sustainable and CC?
It should be.
Once we had this meeting, I was going to ask Bill to update the document on the Sustainable Trumbull website. And if we want it on the Conservation Commission's page, we can certainly have that added there as well.
Is there an opportunity? I mean, does anybody know anybody at the nursery? Is it Wakeman?
Dave, this came up recently. I think I'm trying to remember what I was on. We were talking about invasive plants. It must have been something for school. But there was a conversation around stopping nurseries from selling things like Japanese barberry. And, there's a list of invasive plants that are banned in certain states, and then there's lists of, that people should absolutely not plant. It's illegal to plant them. And it was said that there's a compromise with the landscapers and the nurseries because like burning bush and Japanese barberry are still being sold. Barberry is sold at Wakeman's, and he's a big pollinator pathway guy. So it's hard because these landscapers want to plant these things. So the nurseries feel like they've been losing out on money.
Yeah, and I certainly wasn't thinking in terms of any sort of, nothing negative against the, selling invasives. I was just thinking more in terms of having this available as a handout or even just posted somewhere so that people who come in can see it and at least have the opportunity to be educated a little bit when they're in that moment of buying plants. Like if I'm trying to choose between this one and this one, and I don't, if I'm like, those places are all, I care about plants and pollinators and the ecosystem, and I get very overwhelmed. And so I love those sheets because I go to literally I went to a nursery with that handout and it helped me decide what to buy. But I had to bring it with me. And so at that point of purchase, to have that that really valuable information available, I really don't know the system at the nursery well, but if we know somebody, if there's a way to, have them available or posted or something.
And have the plants available.
And have the plants available, yes.
I mean, Benedict's has been my go-to place around here because Wakeman's, I think, is a little more expensive, but.
Well, and Benedict's is another, I guess that's not actually in Trumbull, is it?
No, it's Monroe, but no, I mean, they don't have most of the plants. They sell the, the things that people are used to seeing. So I think it's also just educating the public to ask for these native plants is another step in that direction. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And, like last year, we had put out a bunch of the pollinator pathway signs there at Wakeman's too. So, so people can, on the checkout, they could buy a pollinator pathway sign and, pick up one of these maybe on the way in. So that's a good point. I'll make a point.
I wonder, if we create this to be printed and handed out, it probably needs a fourth page. So maybe we could put our heads together at some point to think about what that fourth page would be, whether it would be a cover page or something at the back end about why it's important to plant natives or something like that. So
maybe what we should do is should put one of Richard's famous QR codes on these things. Because, people don't like to pick up paper anymore. They want to see it on their phone.
Yeah.
Might be a good idea.
Yeah, well, we'll plant QRs at the entrance to Wakeman's and all these places.
There you go.
Well, I have to say, being like the non-plant person, so I plant impatiens because it's the only thing I don't kill. Because you can bring them to the brink of death and then bring them back. But when I saw it is true, when you show the native, because for me, I wouldn't know native invasive, who cares? What does it matter? But when you show the tree and you show a native tree versus an invasive and you show the number of caterpillars and butterfly, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God. So it's even something as small as that, when you kind of put that on there to show this is the difference of what a native versus an invasive is. So for the people that just kind of, they don't really have the knowledge that you all do. And, but you see something as simple as that, all of a sudden it changes your mind 100% to be like, oops, I'm planting this and that's why. So, that might be a good, using those visuals.
Yeah, I like a fourth page idea of why do you care, but big picture visuals, not 400 words of text.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think of this on our website. I'm envisioning sustainable land conservation having kind of a more robust website with references. Theoretically, we overlap on so much stuff. We could have one eco-sustainable place web page where we store documents, which are under topics like plants and stuff like that theoretically. And I'm sure Bill in his spare time would want to have lots of web pages, but I think having, hard copies, I agree with John, is still important. At town hall, when you go to get a building permit, you look at a bin, oh yeah, I need a building permit, you pull it out. But you could also have a QR code on that bin and a website where to find it. So, when you go home and you've lost it, you can, have a rough idea where to find it again. And because we can, educate people. I think what Pam did on that easier to read invasives and, plants and so on. I'm not a plant person either. And I've looked at these, 3, 4, 5-page lists, and it's like, oh my God, I have no idea where to start. So there's, I think it's a good way to simplify it and, but put it places where people can get it. Because we have a lot of stuff here.
All right, that's great. Well, thank you for that. I think it's a great resource, and then providing it to our boards, our land use boards too. It's easy for them to use with the landscape architects. So, so the next thing, which is pretty exciting, kind of was a pleasant surprise. 1,000 trees for Trumbull. We were kind of on and off with this, and working with Sustainable Trumbull, trying to think about some outreach with trees. And so we had the brochure that we're still in the process of editing so that John can print it for us. I've been going through the budget hearings. So for Select Women and Board of Finance, I've asked for $3,000 in order to cover the printing and distribution of those brochures. Now, of course, that money is for the next fiscal year, so it would be going out in July, like we could be mailing them out in July or whatever we decide to do with them. But in my discussions with the Board of Finance, the topic of this tree program emerged. And if we as a commission were to start a tree program here, a tree replacement program, how much would that be? How much would we ask for? And I never expected to have it come to fruition. I didn't think it would be something we would do this year. We've been just trying for so long that maybe I have PTSD or something, and I'm not used to anyone really having an interest in this, but it apparently is beginning to resonate with people. So from a budget perspective, I'm going to propose that we go forward with this 1,000 trees for Trumbull, which we've talked about. And if we break it down into simple terms, let's say 100 trees a year. Trees are actually, let's say, at $100 a tree. I have a plant list here. I mean, an order form. I'm ordering trees for work today, and they're not $2,000. We can get a nice tree for $100. Really nice tree for $100,000. So 10 trees, 100 trees a year at $100, that's $10,000 a year. So I'm going to kind of throw that out as a proposal and see if the Board of Finance and Town Council take it. And we'll see, I would like the money to be either put in the Conservation Commission budget or some other budget where it is monitored. I don't want it to be in parks or tree warden. They get about $170,000 to $200,000 a year to remove trees. This is all about replacement. This is all about replanting and planting the right tree in the right place. And so I'm going to pull up, let me see, I'm going to share with you a screen. The chair of the Board of Finance, I'm sending her some information just to inform all, the work that we've been doing that's kind of been in a holding pattern. So this is the section of our Trumbull tree management plan, and section 5 is all about the tree replacement plan. So we have it ready to go, and this is the Arbor Day Foundation, and this is also the same guidelines that United Illuminating is following. They don't have as pretty pictures, but it's the same thing. So for people who question oh, why, UI's taking trees down, why would we replant them? That's a good question. We're not replanting the big trees they're taking down. On the side of the utilities, it would be smaller trees like redbuds, dogwoods, crab apples. And then from here, we're just, people can have then a medium-sized tree in the front lawn. And so this way that zone to protect the utilities is clear. On the other side of the street, however, on the non-utility side, yes, you can plant, your bigger trees on the other side so that we can have, hopefully that side hasn't been cut down, but I don't know. But if we want to have a treescape again on our streets, we have to start planting now, right? That saying is, what's the right time to plant a tree? Yesterday. I've been here 30 years in my house, and there are like trees that were so tiny when I moved here that are towering now. And in the blink of an eye, I can't believe I'm here 30 years, and I can't believe how big those trees are. So we plant them now, and then this generation and the next generation will have beautiful tree-lined streets, but the right tree in the right place. And so this is what we're going for. All of this is in our plan. So I'm just going to edit this a little bit and send it off to the chair of the Board of Finance so she can see that this is something we've put a lot of thought into. These are native trees that we're recommending. Planting guidelines, we worked on this, no more than 10% of the same, genus. Because if we have like the problem we're having now with the ash trees, the emerald ash borer, all these ash trees are going, we have to have a variety of species. An amphitheater effect, which is small trees gradually increasing in height. It improves the strength of the trees and reduces maintenance costs long-term. And hopefully in the future, we won't have to spend $200,000 a year to remove these trees because we have the right ones in the right place. And then there's all these designations. And this is the kind of stuff that Tim knows all about. And so I'm hoping that if we can get the funding for this and we establish a program that, Tim can help us lead this as he's our licensed arborist. Maybe we won't need the town to get as involved as they are in this. We can kind of try to follow Fairfield's model, where we have another team that actually puts these trees in, or we hire someone separately to put these trees in. So using gator bags, these are the kind of guidelines that, Tim can help us with. This is like right up his alley. And this is the other guidelines we had worked on. Town trees removed by private contractors. This is the same kind of, even private trees that are removed replaced for inland wetlands. This is a kind of one-to-one replacement that we're trying to follow. So if a big honker tree like this one, this is like a massive tree.
Now,
Yeah.
Just a couple of things. The $10,000 I think is a good number.
Okay.
But we really have to think about, if they give you that money, what's the implementation plan in regards to, I think we could clearly understand that the town or the Parks Department won't have the resources to plant these trees. So like we do in Greenwich, we have a full tree department anyways, but we have a tree conservancy there that funds the labor to plant the trees and then for a yearly aftercare. So we really have to think long and hard in regards to how they're going to get planted, where they're going to get planted in conjunction with either the town or the Parks Department, and then their aftercare for a year, because the first year and even the second year are critical to get them established and planted correctly, and then make sure they don't get their bark stripped by a weed whacker or a mower and those sort of things. So there's some procedural stuff that has to really kind of be worked out ahead of time. So
yeah.
So Tim, does that mean that you would recommend a higher budget
well,
in toto, or?
It depends. I mean, if you ask for 10 and they gave you that, I think I'd be a little surprised, but I'm not saying don't ask for it. But if I was on the finance board, I would be like, all right, we'll give you $10,000, but what does that mean? Is that 100 trees? Is that, 10 trees? What is your plan? What's your operational plan? So it's really probably contracting out with a landscaper, a local landscaper. We have a person that plants the trees, some of the trees for down in Greenwich for the tree conservancy. But they're licensed, they have commercial insurance, and then they go out with the town. The town picks the spots where the trees are going to be planted, and then they get planted, they get aftercare for a year, and then they kind of move on from there. So there really has to be an operational plan with the thought of whatever monies they're going to give you, how many trees you're going to actually plant.
Yeah, so that's why this document that I'm kind of working off of here is really like kind of like a policy, but the plan itself for choosing locations, that absolutely, Tim, that has to be worked out. Like, how are we going to prioritize where they go? It's just like the sidewalks. Where are we going to start putting these sidewalks? Where's the priority? How much are we going to have a year to do this? And this is kind of the same thing. And this was like 2015, 2016 when we wrote this. We put an annual budget of $50,000, and that's not what we're talking.
Yeah, but you had an operational plan where the sidewalks were picked, and then there was a contractor to install them, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Because if they give you the 10,000 and go, okay, here you go, put in 100 trees, and then you have to, and then like we do in Greenwich, we have vendors that are approved, they have the liability insurance, yada yada yada. So yeah, which I think if we get go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Tim. One thing exactly that Mel and I were discussing that because one reason that this was proposed was because with COVID, being in the house for all these meetings, my husband is back and forth in the kitchen and up in the basement, and hearing honestly Mel talking constantly on our meetings about the importance of all of this, and it really turned into a priority. So when she came to the Board of Finance, that was one of the things. What would you do if you had more money, or what would be your number one thing? So trees coming up. So obviously that is one of the rationale around that is, if we give you a certain amount of money, what do you want and how do we implement that? So if it is 10,000, if that is the ask, and 10 to 12,000, how much of that is going to be on the Parks Department? So that was the ask, is so what is Dimitri's group going to do, and how is that going to work? Do we have volunteer groups that can help? I mean, Mel was saying, we were talking the other day about the difference between having, and she'll go into it, but the difference between having burlap wrapped versus
ball and burlap.
Yeah. So there's ways that can we get the most bang for our buck by having other groups perhaps facilitate and help this, as opposed to completely putting it into Parks and Recs. And then also we do have, if we can match the town at this with sustainable Trumbull, with sustainable CT, or other matching grants to help to double our funds here and there. And so it's a start. It's the first year to see where we can go. But I thought Mel's plan was great in the way of, as you guys know, the gator bags and this and that. So there's so many, ins and outs to all this to make it work out. So I felt really comfortable hearing her proposal, and I hope the Board of Finance feels the same way. I believe they do, but again, I think the best way that we can do this is, how do we get the most trees in, and can we make it a community effort? Can we get grant funding and get it started and keep, continuing to build on this year to year? I do like that it's put in the Conservation Commission budget, so that there is the oversight on your group for that, and you facilitating it. So
right. I mean, I'm just from an operational point of view for doing it so long. I just see that, volunteers are great, and it's usually one tree. This tree, and it's kind of like everybody's happy for a while and then everybody disappears. So you know, with good, bad, or indifferent, that, you know, the after Arbor Day and everything else, but then there's the whole rest of the year. And I've seen it, you know, work in a lot of different ways. Our operation is that we plant in Greenwich, we plant them and take care of them, or the tree conservancy plants them and takes care of them. And there's going to be aftercare for a year. There's budget line items that we have that are specific to, say, tree planting. So there's a couple of ways you could probably do it, either in the Parks Department where it's a line item for it's just tree planting, or it's in conservation, but the real smoother way, we can do some trees planted, volunteer groups or what have you, but you really have to have a mechanism for, we have trees, they're purchased from a nursery, contractors there, he plants them, and then there's some sort of aftercare for at least a year with mulch and gator bags or what have you.
Mhm.
Because if you do all this work and we get a dry stretch in August and they're not watered, really all of that effort's for naught. You have a bunch of dead trees, and then we start the whole process over again. So there really has to be a mechanization of how the trees get planted. They should get planted very early in the spring, not through the course of the year. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but it's really got to be somewhat systematic.
Yeah, totally agree. Mel said that you would take care of that, Tim. You'd be in charge. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think this was kind of a last ditch effort that it came in right at that point. So that's why it's not obviously completely mapped out at this point. And so I think the important thing is if we do get the funding, and let's hope that funding goes through. I think there's enough support for it. I think it's really important. I think, you know, as I said, supporting this group that's done so much. We need it, as UI just went up and down my street and Teller Road the last week. So seeing lots of trees down, I think it's fantastic. But exactly that, you have that side of it from Greenwich, knowing how do we implement this in the best way to ensure that, you know, we have the trees living, going on, and we don't waste our money and not have it work to the best benefit. And how do we continue this going forward? So, you know, Mel was great, I have to say, presenting to the commission, and it was very impressive. So I'm just hoping that, you know, as I said, that the funding goes through, and then we can work out the logistics. And these are good questions that should come up, and they probably will be asked. So for the next meeting, these would be, you know, great things to have answers to. And I know Mel's kind of on top of a lot of it, and your help would be super as well.
Tim, is there like a rule of thumb, if, you know, tree costs X, then plant, or, you know, or $100, planting it is $50 and maintaining it for a year is $30? Like, how do we think about the ratio of those costs? So if we did get $10,000, is it half trees and half planting and maintenance? Is it a third trees and 2/3 planting and maintenance?
I mean, I would say realistically, to buy a 2.5-inch caliper tree, I probably wouldn't go more than that. Have it planted correctly and then watered through the course of a year, you're probably talking $400 to $500 per tree.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
so it's
realistic.
$100 for the tree and $300 to $400 to make sure it gets around and lives.
A landscaper would usually buy a tree for $150, and to plant it in your yard, you triple the cost of the tree, because he'll give you a year guarantee. You know, yeah, so the tree dies, he has to replace it. So he's also buying an insurance policy. So if you're going to get a contractor to plant these trees for you, there's got to be some, you know, he's got to get his labor costs, and then who shares the responsibility? If he's not replacing the tree in a year, if it dies, then you can take on that cost, but that's a whole nother level of management. And I've done this so many times in so many years. If the volunteer groups are great, but a lot of times it falls by the wayside and everybody gets on to other things. So what we find is successful is that we do it, or we hire the tree commission down in Greenwich, and they take care of it for the year. The first year is just critical. Again, because, you know, if it doesn't, the tree's going to perish and we're just back to ground zero. So I mean, it's like anything else. If you want to get the right results, you got to spend the money.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know in our yard last spring, we planted like 25-foot trees, They were not invasives, by the way. And it was $60 to plant them. No guarantee. I said, no, just plant the trees. I'll set up a sprinkler system, and they were still alive. But that was $60 by a local contractor. So that I don't think you can install a tree any cheaper than $60 probably. But there's no
Yeah.
guarantee that they even live, or there's no watering. I was a waterer.
Yeah, you remember, if they're a legitimate contract, they have liability insurance, it's really, there's a lot that goes into it. And then, like I said, you have to work with the Parks Department, which is fine, or whoever, to place the trees that are suitable where they should go. And there's a lot of logistics, but the key is to get the system and get the program rolling and get it year after year after year.
So what I have up here is, this is kind of like part 2 of this discussion, and is we talked about this before, Tree City USA, which is kind of like it's like sustainable CT, silver certification. It's a certification that towns and cities can get, and there are requirements in order to be qualified. And usually you have to see, I was always under the impression that $2 per capita is required for tree replanting annually. So we have 36,000 people in our town. So that's $72,000 a year for tree replacement. And I'm like, that's never going to happen. So I just gave up. But apparently, after you dive into it, there are qualified expenses. There are other things, other expenses in the town that qualify under that $2 per capita requirement, which is things that we've done, pruning or removal, equipment rental, insurance, volunteer time. There's been all kinds of other stuff that's gone on at Public Works that we would get credit for to help us qualify for Tree City USA certification. So I sent this to Dimitri along with an application for him to fill out, which was 1 page. And so now that it's budget season, he's got his budget open. And wait a minute. Oh, did I lose? Are you guys still there?
Yeah.
Okay, but I lost you. There you were. You disappeared. I got scared. So he's going to work on that for us. And I think between that and if we do get some money for tree replanting, the fact that we already have a tree management plan that could be kind of transformed into an ordinance, I think we could absolutely this year apply for a Tree City designation, which I think would be really cool. And it's kind of like sustainable CT, where you don't really get anything fabulous for it. It's just, yeah, we're a tree city. And I think that we should qualify for it because we have, the highest per capita of park land in the state. So we should be a tree city. But that's just kind of a little sidebar that came up. And I called our state forester. Her name is Danica Dabrowski, and she is tasked with helping towns to become tree city towns, one of her many things. So she will help us with this. She can come in and do presentations in the next couple of months and stuff like that during this year. So we have resources of tools, and we have helpers that can help us to do this, to kind of push this initiative through. But a cool thing that Sustainable CT, April Lang's going to do on April 29th is at Middlebrook Elementary School. She's bringing in that young man that was from Fairfield. He's like a 5th grader that talks about trees. I don't know if you remember last summer, he did a presentation for us. He's actually going to go in live to Middlebrook, and he's going to do 2 presentations for the 5th graders there on trees and why trees are so important. And the Bartlett Tree Company is giving us 100 free seedlings for the kids. And they just told me today that they're going to come and actually do a little presentation for the kids too, along with, oh gosh, I can't even remember his name. Does anybody remember his name? The young man. It's not
I
Matthew.
don't. That's great.
So anyway, but so this is kind of cool. This is like a first kind of tree kickoff. There's a little video that she's going to show the kids, and then this young man from Fairfield's going to talk, and then Bartlett Tree is going to give out 100 free trees to the kids at Middlebrook. So it's kind of a fun little pilot to start rolling this out in the schools, and we'll see how this works.
Ryan Romeo.
That's it, Ryan. Thank you.
I Googled quickly.
Thank you.
How can you forget that name?
Ryan Romeo. My files are so full in my head. I have to like download stuff onto a flash drive to get it out of my head. Ryan Romeo. Okay, so that's cool. So, you know, this is when I say things are kind of popping up here and there, that this is a good thing, because this, you know, our priorities for this year were, you know, to get this survey done, and it's going to happen. And the survey will help inform our outreach going forward with the brochure and all this other stuff. Public outreach for trees for Trumbull. We're doing that. Draft model riparian corridor and watershed protection. We're working on that. And the native plant ordinance, which is really a native plant recommendation, which will be put into the zoning regs. And so the only thing that we're kind of tabling for a little while is this community gardens expansion that we're kind of working on with talking about with Sustainable CT. And I really believe that if we can just wait until spring gets here, because it will get here, and we go on a physical tour of Westport Community Gardens, it will just blow people's minds. Whether Dimitri comes with us or Vicky comes with us, it just is amazing. And I think it will change people's minds, because they visually can't see the expansion of the garden now. And I think if you see what Westport has done, it's great. The only caveat is that we have to be able to get Trumbull people to really get engaged the way Westport people.
Well, I think we can do that. And I think, you know, we talked about this yesterday a little bit, but we're meeting with Vicky. A couple of us from Sustainable Trumbull are meeting with Vicky on Monday, the 4th, just to go over a couple of our priorities. And this is one of them. And just to see if she's buying in on it. I know, I don't think that we have Parks and Rec 100% behind this idea, but if we can get Vicky on board and maybe get Vicky and Dimitri to come on a little road trip with us, I'm not going to give up hope on this one. I think this is a really attainable thing this year.
I agree. And I think it's just how we present it. And I think it's just really, you know, I mean, my state of mind always was like, while we have 1 acre lots or here in Trumbull, if you want a vegetable garden, you do it in your own backyard. Why do you need a community garden? So I never quite got it until I just happened to go to this Westport one, and I was like, holy mackerel, this is so much more than just a place for you to grow vegetables. It really is a central meeting point for the community, for kids, for adults.
You know, renovate that greenhouse and make it.
Yes.
There's so many layers to this that could benefit the town beyond just, well, people have their own gardens. It's not just that. It's so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about that as a destination. You know, Richard used the word destination before. This is a destination at that park. There's so much that's being underutilized there. So, so that's just, you know, kind of, we'll keep that in our hats. And I wanted to, oh wait, I almost hit leave, you guys. I almost clicked myself out.
I think Janet has a question.
Janet,
Oh,
there's a little hand.
And actually, after
Well,
Janet, I
I
want to
was
say
just-
one thing about the Greenwich Gardens. Go ahead, Janet.
No, I was just going to say that I mean, if you wanted to use my grant contribution for that, if we were to partner with Sustainable CT, I could give you a year's worth of trees in value.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
But
Janet's been dying to give us our
I know,
money.
she's
We
dying to
don't know
give
how
us-
to do it.
money for this. We need the nature center, right, to be the 501c3, to hold the,
Right,
some money. Right, it can't be to the town, it's gotta be to.
right.
And you know what, Janet, the trees, I mean, I buy trees, Tim buys trees. If we get trees in bulk and they're kept there at the nature center, which was a tree farm at one time, there's always people there that can take care of them and take care of them until we decide where to put them. So, we buy them kind of ahead of time and get them stored there at an old tree farm, which is the nature center. And that's the stock that you work off of when you put them in the street. So, well, thank you, Janet, for waiting so patiently for us.
Well, it's just sitting there, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, if you go through Sustainable CT, then you do have to do a bit of crowdfunding, 35 to 50%, but that could add a lot more money
Yeah.
if you
And
work.
raise public awareness.
Pardon?
And in so doing, we would raise public awareness.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. So I just wanted to share my screen here. Another kind of, oh, there it is. Okay. So this is upcoming events for the land trust. So I just wanted to let you know, look who's speaking on Friday, April 8th. It's our very own Pam Coleman. She is doing a presentation, a Zoom presentation on a lunch and learn at 12 o'clock. Hopefully by Friday, I'm going to be launching her e-blast. So I'll send it all to you so you can sign up. She's going to talk about her backyard restoration and how there's been this miraculous transformation and very, very hard work during COVID to remove all the invasives and to plant natives. So very excited about that. We have one coming up tomorrow, which is an invasive panel discussion. These are free, and it's in partnership with Connecticut Audubon and the Connecticut Invasive Plant Working Group and Pollinator Pathway. And we have a whole panel of experts that are going to talk about invasive plants here in our region and how they remove them. So we've got Stefan from Connecticut Audubon and Lou from Maspatuck Land Trust, who've been managing invasives for a long time, and Dan Delventhal, who's our clean green mowing machine guy, who has found that invasive removal is critically important to the work that he does. And Emmett is like the guru on invasive plants. So if you want to join tomorrow, I can send this email to you, link to you guys. But we got a lot of fun stuff coming up, and I would really love to share these events with Sustainable Trumbull. Like we've got an Earth Day event, Earth Day Lunch and Learn, and there's no reason why we can't put them on our sites. And it sounds like we have a really good library director who is pretty innovative and coming up with some great ideas. What she calls it, dinner interrupted, which is like a dinner, kind of like lunch and learn, but at dinner. And she calls it dinner interrupted, where you have a lecture Zoom that you can get on for dinner. So it's cool to have a resource like that in the library that can help us to, share some of these great Zoom lectures. So I think Pam and Mary, you've spoken. Have you reached out to her, or you spoken?
Yeah, it's Amara. So
Amara.
yeah, so she's trying to. They have a few things going on, so we can link in with them, which would be great. And hope to. I said, now that we're kind of coming out of COVID and we can kind of meet and greet again. I think the last big thing that we had was Mel with you with the Pollinator Pathway at the library. And then all of a sudden we had things planned and they stopped. So, but one thing back to the community gardens, if you look at Greenwich, I don't know if I sent that to you today, Mel. I was just kind of curious if you had looked at them, but it was really interesting to see the amount of community donations they had for this company supplied the fence, this did the mulch, this did the, it was really impressive the amount of community efforts that they had that really supported. They've got, I think, 3 or 4 different community gardens, and they have the same thing as Westport, where they have where they support food pantries, which is huge. And I think that's important. And our, you know, our wellness nurse does support the food pantry, and they do have they do have a senior growing area. So that might be something, again, to look at that and see, like, what is their template? How did they get those businesses to support them in that way, as opposed to just giving like a little bit here and there? It just seemed like they did better than Westport, let's say, in fundraising. So I was kind of interested in that. So we'll see.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Here, let me see. I'll pull it up. This is the screen. So this is, let me open this so I can just see the event. Waste Free Greenwich Compost Give Back Day, Greenwich Community Gardens. Culinary Wellness Garden at Nathaniel Witherell. Wow, Compost Give Back Day. Jeez.
Well, if you go to their garden page after, like, I know not now, but go to their garden page after community gardens, and you'll see they've got, like, I think 3 or 4 different gardens, and it looks exactly like Westport. I mean, it's very, very well done, very interesting. But they do have, you know, when they thank the groups that have supported them, they're like, thank you this fencing, thank you this mulching, thank you. So, you know, it might be a way to touch base with them and see how they've worked that out.
Yeah, I didn't even know they had it. Tim, you probably know they have a community garden or multiple ones.
I do. It's all about time and money.
Yeah.
It's always about time and money.
It is.
Yeah. Fenced off, just like Westport's. Oh, it's very cool. No, I love this. This is so cool.
They also have about a 20-person board. Like, there's clearly a big commitment behind it.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Time and money.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the things we're gonna, I don't want to say barrier, but I think that is gonna be one of the things our Parks and Rec is gonna say, like the same thing as Tim is saying for the trees. You want a group that's gonna say, we're gonna run the community gardens. Are they gonna stay? How long are they gonna be there? How are they going, you know? So it's again, it's the engagement and trying to keep it, you know, as a continuum. And it's a valid question, but there are so many people that are like this group that are really invested. And I think that that's one reason to, you know, one good rationale for saying, look how invested all these people are year to year to year to year. So
yeah, I think that's great. Thanks, Mary, for sending me that. I didn't open it yet, so that's really interesting that they've got some good examples. But you know, we've got the ready-made area that already has this little garden. We just need to expand it. So very cool. Thank you. So that's all I had for today. We have an old business here, just on inland wetland. Thankfully, I asked Richard if he could go to an inland wetland walk where there was some tree removal applications. So I don't know if there was anything you wanted to share about that, or if it was not a significant issues that were there. Or...
I mean, it wasn't too significant. I just share my screen on one of them just to give you a quick.
Oh, they were on the Pequannock River. That's right. A couple of them are right on the edge of the river.
Yeah, this one, if you look, you see it, see the picture here?
Yeah.
The left side is Eastern Reservoir. So this house borders, it's on Vixen, which is west of Madison. And the tree in the middle is the one they want to cut down. It's a safety hazard to the tree. They're going to add on to the house a 3rd-car garage on the right side, away from wetlands. But where that left guy is standing is a storm drain from the street discharge that flows into Eastern Reservoir. Make a long story short, they're going to, along there, they're going to have some plantings, a little bit of a buffer zone.
Okay.
So, you know, as a geologist, I don't, you know, find a problem, you know, with that, cutting down that one tree. As far as the other house was the property just upstream from Daniel's Farm Road Bridge over the Pequannock. And there's several very large trees, but they're essentially dead. And so some of these are right at the water's edge. And so the idea is to remove those trees and not replant. And I talked to Wetlands about replanting. There's an old lady who owns the house, a really cool old stone house, 200-year-plus old house that
Oh,
used to be a
cool.
mill. And so I don't see a huge issue with erosion. If the trees fell, went to the river, they could run into the bridge, which could, create a problem. So Tim might have felt differently, but I don't think either one was, too much of a concern.
Mm. All right, yeah, as long as they're, at least like here, if they're gonna put a buffer along that stream area, that's a good thing. So I appreciate your going. I just was concerned about that one on the river. But if they're dead and they're a hazard, it's good. Thank you
Yeah.
for your input. So I guess there's nothing we have to write in terms of a recommendation there. I think they got this.
Yeah, I think we're all set.
Okay, that's great. Well, it is, I don't know what time it is, 9:13. So that's all I have for tonight. I don't have any pollinator pathway updates. That was the Pam Roman April 8th update. That counts as pollinator pathway update. So does anybody have anything else they wanted to share or questions? Our next meeting's April 27th. And I hope that we can be in person. I'm counting on it, which would be nice.
Good to go.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it. So thank you very much, you guys. This was a good meeting. We had a lot of food for thought. And,
And I see a Richard White hand up. I don't know if
Richard.
that's.
oh,
now?
Richard, yes, go ahead.
Oh, it is now. Okay.
I just wanted to thank you all for your time and your obvious expertise in these areas. I haven't been to a conservation commission planning since the 2014 conservation development activity and some nature center stuff. But I appreciate the work you do and the time you gave me earlier.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you. Tell people to come. We're very nice. We're very nice.
And,
I want to go on the tour of the gardens.
Yeah, okay. We'll definitely keep you included in that. That'd be great.
by the way, we are having a youth archery class at the Trumbull Nature Center,
Oh,
sponsored by the DEP. So if you have anybody 6 to 15 and they want to take an archery class, we will be there June 11th.
oh, cool. Okay. June 11th.
I think my kid has been in your class before.
Oh yeah, I hope they enjoyed it.
Yeah, he did. They did a youth archery, host like a 5-week series. Also then later through the town parks. So doing it with you then got him excited to do something longer commitment. So
That's good. I've had a couple of people come back to me that say that they've either stuck with archery or they've done archery and actually gone into hunting. So it's nice to get kids involved and keep them outside.
Definitely. Thank you, John. And thanks for the help with the signs too.
No problem.
And everybody's contribution is much appreciated. And Barbara too, thank you for doing all this work behind the scenes and keeping me in line. It's like, get me an agenda, get me an agenda. Okay, that's great. Well, everybody have
Good night.
a good night. Thank you very much.
Night.
for
Thank
your
you.
All
work.
right.
I
Good
appreciate
night.
it.
I
Thank
have to
you.
yell, hello, Barbara, and goodbye. It's nice to see you again. I haven't seen you in so long.